Man, it's been well, that's still playing. Man, it's been a minute. It has been a hot minute, probably about a good month since we have been on this channel. Hope you guys are doing well. I know, and I don't expect really anybody to be in here right now. I could have recorded this and uploaded it, but honestly, I don't have the energy to do that. I just decided to go live, and whoever comes across this and in their own time, they can watch it as they please. I wanted to come on here. Jared Devil, what's up, man? You're right on top of it. I really don't expect many to be in here at this time. I know this is kind of out of nowhere live stream. Not going to be on here too long, maybe about 10-15 minutes. I know it's been a while since I've been on here and that Daniel and I have done a show. I know that with the holidays, everything like that, things have been busy. We were hoping to be able to do things more on a consistent basis. But it just hasn't worked out that way. And to be quite honest, I haven't really had the energy to podcast. I haven't. I've had other things to deal with, and I just don't have the energy. It's different if you're doing this for a living. I'm not. So, and with the way that we're watching this team play, who wants to come on here and go out of their way and say the same thing every single week? I don't have the energy to do it. I don't have the energy to come on here, say the same thing every single week, the same problems, the same issues, things like that. So Daniel and I will be back probably once the season's over, and we'll be back, and myself and him and all of you guys will just talk about whatever. We'll spend an hour and we'll just really talk about whatever. So I think that's a plan him and I will do probably once the season's done. Afton, hello. Thank you for coming in and hanging out. Like I said, this is a pretty random live stream. Not going to be on here for too long. We're sucking as much as my last Tinder date. Well, Jared Devil, I mean, it's honestly pretty bad if it's on that level, huh? But yeah, just coming on here, giving my thoughts. I hear you guys out as well. I don't really know at this point. We just wrapped up the season, and we still have a playoff game, unfortunately, to watch next week. We don't know 100% for certain who the Steelers are going to be playing. But everybody, this team's dead. This team's dead. This team's the Walking Dead. If you want to watch the Steelers, go on, I don't even know what it's on anymore. Go on Netflix, put on The Walking Dead, and start at season 1. There you go. This team is the most I've been disgusted with them in very recent memory. Now, don't get me wrong. I hated this. I hated the team last year, and I hated the team in 2022. It was awful. It was awful. But this year takes the cake. This year has been absolutely disgusting. It's been absolutely gross supporting this team the last month. This team sat at 10-3. And I think a lot of us, including myself, thought, you know what? This team really might be different. This really might be a different team for once that we haven't had since, 2016, maybe 2017, though they choked the game in the playoffs that year. Sitting at 10-3, leading the division by 2 games. We are seeing an offense at this point in time. When the Steelers were 10-3, we're seeing an offense that we haven't seen in quite a long time, where they're pushing the football, where they're scoring over 25 points a game. They're running the football well. Russell Wilson was coming on and playing pretty well. The defense was kind of doing its thing. Now, the defense, again, had a very underwhelming season. I don't care what anybody says. This defense is the highest paid defense in the NFL. We'll get to it later. But when they were 10-3, a lot of things were clicking right. There were still problems. Of course, there's going to be. But it felt different. The team felt structured. They felt a little more disciplined than previous years. That there was a plan week in, week out in terms of what we wanted to execute. And then you look forward to the last 4 games. Okay, they have to play Philadelphia. I stated that that game against Philly was an important game, but there are a lot of people out there that didn't seem to care about that game. I thought the game was important because if you lost the game, then you go to Baltimore and you lose, and then you're tied for the division. That's exactly what happened. And then you lose to the Chiefs and you get embarrassed on Christmas. And then you lose last night. So I'm not going to break down what happened in all four of those games. I'm just here to talk about where the team's at right now, the abysmal 4-game skid that they're on, and why nobody should have any excitement going into the playoffs. If you're a Steeler fan that's excited about the playoffs and everything like that, I don't know what to tell you. It is the same thing year in, year out. This team started 10-3 and they finished 10-7. They finished with the same exact record they had last year, and they choked away the AFC North to get a home playoff game against probably, presumably, the Denver Broncos or the Chargers. Let's see what you guys are saying here. They gave us some hope and ripped it away. Absolutely, they did. Positive is that we don't have to have other teams decide our playoff fate. Yeah, and it's incredibly apparent that the only ones putting any effort, Warren, Cam. It just seems like everybody's chalked out, Drew. Everybody's chalked out. Everybody's just ready for the offseason. Like, if looking at that team last night, you wouldn't even think that they were playing for that they were well, not necessarily playing for anything, but you wouldn't even have thought that they had a playoff game the following week. You would have thought that this is the end of the season. They're already eliminated. Whatever. It's awful. And where does that stem from? Where does that stem from? I think we all know that answer. What's the common denominator? Let's look at every year since 2017. 2016 was the last year they won a playoff game. Okay, let's look at 2017. Second seed, probably presumably should have got the first seed, but they got screwed out with the Jesse James touchdown. Got embarrassed by the Jaguars. Okay. 2018, they start 7-2-1. Collapse, finish 9-6-1, miss the playoffs. 2019, Big Ben's out. They go 8-5, lose out. 2020, they go 11-0 and have a late season collapse in December and get blown out in the first round. 2022, they have a terrible team assembled and they go 9-8 somehow and they miss the playoffs. Last year, what happened? We went again. They go through 3 different quarterbacks. They get in the playoffs as a wild card. They get blown out Buffalo. Now this year they start 10-3. Okay, they have a whole new quarterback room. They did fail the wide receiver room, but overall, I think a lot of people going into the season, and as the season was going on, thought to themselves, this really might be different. This really might be different. We have some leadership there at quarterback. Our offense is playing better. This has been the better offense that we've had in a long time. Not that's saying a ton, but still. Defensively, they're doing their part. They're not great, but they're okay. They're doing their part. And again, you fast forward a month later. It's insane what can change all in a month. Yeah, Elliott's been great this season. Pickens took a few weeks off. Forget how to catch. Honestly, dude, we'll get to George Pickens, but I don't know how anybody is content with him. I really don't know. This guy is an absolute migraine to watch. Super talented, but will never put it all together. His ego is way too big. He thinks that he's better than any wide receiver in the NFL, and he's not. He shows zero heart in anything he does. Watch him on the field. He shows zero heart in anything he does. At least with Antonio Brown, through his migraines, he still balled out. He still showed up every single week. Through the headaches he brought, through his off-the-field problems he brought, he showed up every single week and balled out. George Pickens, on the other hand, does not. And I'm completely okay moving off of him. He's got 1 year left on his deal. He hasn't shown enough in terms of consistency from wide receiver play. When things get bad or there's stressful moments or your back's against the wall, he doesn't show up. What are you paying that for? It's honestly freaking embarrassing watching him out there. The other times I heard Minka's name. Yeah, and Minka as well. And I don't think it's totally his fault. I think the Steelers have him playing a certain way, and he doesn't really like it very much. But he seemed checked out. So where does it all stem from? What's the common denominator over these late season collapses, over these blowouts in the first round? What's the common denominator here? And listen, I've appreciated Mike Tomlin. I'm not one of the Mike Tomlin haters that are out there. I'm not. But I said this last season, but now especially this season. When's enough enough? What's the plan? What's the answer here? Because the Steelers are doing the same thing over and over and over every single season. And it's ending up in the same result. That's the definition of insanity. They are doing the same thing countlessly. And if you look at it, it seems like that they've kind of had the same team the last 5-6 years, but in just different ways, different variations. They're trying to cover up certain areas. They're trying to band-aid certain positions that they don't have an answer for. Yeah, I have a yellow shirt on, so it's kind of interfering in my background. Forgive me. I think anybody, honestly, would rather see that out there, Daredevil, than what they currently have. But it's just sad. It's just sad. It's disgusting, and it's just the most grossed out I've been with this team. And at this point going forward, the Steelers can do whatever they want to do in the offseason. They can go ahead and spend all the money they want. They can go ahead and sign whoever they want, draft whoever they want. I will not take them seriously until they start to prove themselves once again. That they can win 10 games, they can win 11 games, they can make a playoff, but until they start to prove themselves that they can be taken seriously, I'm not taking them serious. I don't know how anybody can take them serious. And I know a lot of people out there say that there's countless teams that would kill to be in the spot the Steelers are at. Well, that's too bad. Sorry, your team sucks. Sorry, your team can't develop talent. The Steelers can develop talent, but they don't do anything with it. They don't go anywhere with it. And it just sits and sits and sits. Coaching. Every year, they're out-coached, they're out-schemed, they're outmatched. Every single year, in a lot of key moments, key games, everything that they do, it's so difficult. Everything that they do, it seems so difficult for them to gain an inch, to gain a yard. It's like pulling teeth. It's every year. They don't. They want to keep Terrell Austin around, who's never been a good defensive coordinator. Look at him with the Bengals. Sure, he might be able to coach up a secondary. What does that mean that you should be running a defense? Arthur Smith. Okay, Arthur Smith comes in. There's some things he did well earlier in the season, but the guy doesn't adjust. The guy doesn't have an answer for anything. What are we doing with Cordarrelle Patterson in the fourth quarter, giving him a quick toss to the right with a gain of -4 yards on whatever down that was? What are we doing with that? What are we doing with needing an inch on fourth down and we're running Jaylen Warren up the middle instead of Najee Harris, who's a freaking power back? These last 3 years with Najee and Jaylen Warren, I swear, dude, they flip-flop them around. They have Jaylen Warren do things that Najee Harris should be doing, and they have Najee Harris doing things Jaylen Warren should be doing. Najee Harris running to the outside. Najee Harris taking tosses to the outside. For what? We've seen that all year. They continue to run on first down every single time. They continue to run on second down 70% of their snaps. And then they're in a third and long predicament. It's been all season long. I don't understand. Why are there no changes in the film meetings? Why do we not see any changes offensively? Why do we not see things taken out of the playbook? We're seeing the same thing repeatedly over and over again because you know why? Because they don't have a plan. Because they don't know any other way to efficiently scheme up offense, especially later in the season as it goes on. And that's a freaking problem. Oh, it's awful, dude. What are you throwing a toss to Najee for? I don't know, Afton. It's every year. It's every year. It's every single year. Mike Tomlin has zero coaching tree. Zero. Zero. He has zero coaching tree. Mike Tomlin is a great coach. I don't care what anybody says. He is. You cannot take away some of it, his accomplishments. You can't take away his consistency. Okay. I don't think there's any denying that. He has shown over his 18, 19 years in the league that he is a great coach. But is he still the match for this team? Is he still the match for this team going forward? It gets to a point when you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. It is the definition of insanity. Nothing is working. Nothing is changing. It's not. Is it all on Mike Tomlin? No, it's not. Art Rooney has a lot to do with it. Terrell Austin has a lot to do with it. Arthur Smith has been a failure. The Steelers have lacked during Big Ben's last couple years to find a replacement. They did not do that. They neglected that. And now they're in quarterback purgatory where they're going through a different quarterback every single season. Mike Tomlin having some winning seasons with some of these teams is truly remarkable. The 2022 season, finishing 9-8. I mean, honestly, that team was awful. The 2019 season, going through Duck and Mason Rudolph, honestly. So the guy has had impressive seasons, even if they've missed the playoffs. I mean, I'm being completely honest. If you give Mike Tomlin the Cleveland Browns, I think that he makes a push for them to win 9 games. Mike Tomlin can coach. Mike Tomlin has been a great coach over his years, absolutely. But that doesn't take away what's been going on these last 4 or 5 years here. It doesn't take away that it might be time for a change. It doesn't take away that it just might not be the fit anymore. The message is stale. The voice is stale. The way that he wants this team to win games is stale. He wants this team to win games by scoring 18 points a game and playing defense. This isn't 2005. Eddie, what's up, man? Thanks for coming in. So I think we all can ask, when's enough enough? We all can have different opinions, different answers. But I truly don't think people can throw out answers and opinions out there on what the Steelers need to do this offseason. But to me, I don't even have an answer for you. I don't have an answer to tell you. We all can come up and fantasize and mock draft and what the people they should sign in free agency. But why does it even matter? Why does it even matter? Because they did that last year. They overhauled the quarterback room. They had a good draft. Sure, they botched the wide receiver room, but other than that, I think they did a pretty good job building this team as we looked at it in the offseason. But look where it led again. So what is the answer? It might need to be a complete overhaul. It might need to be fresh blood, new blood in there, new voice, new message, new philosophy. What is the answer? And I don't think we're really going to have that answer until we see the start of next season. Are we ready for Fields again? I think most people are. At least Justin Fields. I mean, I'm not saying Justin Fields is this and that, but I mean, my God, Steelers will win 2 playoff games. I mean, Ralph, if that would happen, then I would be very, very interested to see what the narrative would be, because we look at the Steelers being 10-3, leading the division by 2 games, playing really good football, right? Different team, possible Super Bowl contender team, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Fast forward a month, 10-7, same thing. Collapse. Now they're going to the playoffs looking like the worst team heading into the playoffs. Okay. So Ralph, if they won 2 playoff games, I mean, you talk about a book. You talk about a narrative changing 3 times. If they won 2 playoff games, it would be truly remarkable, just given the fact of where they're at right now. And a lot of different mindsets in there, and really everything would change at that point. But it's just hard to see. The team's just dead. It's just hard to see a team drop 4 straight games like that to some really good opponents and be able to bounce back in the playoffs and run to the AFC Championship. Keith, what's up, man? Thanks for coming in. The O-line's sucking at the point to where Fields can get. Well, yeah, and that was the whole thing. Like that was really a big argument when Justin Fields was when Justin Fields was taken out, a lot of people viewed that as you're taking away your biggest weapon offensively. The offensive line's not holding up during this time, week 6, week 7, whatever week it was. Offensive line's not holding up. Fields is the best weapon offensively. He's getting us down the field with his legs, being able to run the football. It's helping the run game, blah, 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 blah. And then Russ comes in and starts lighting it up with his arm and everything like that. Tomlin's looking great, but now we're seeing Russell Wilson these last 4 weeks look like what we saw in Denver. Yeah, and that's the thing, Eddie. It's the coaching. They just can't figure it out. They cannot figure out a coaching staff. They can't. They haven't been able to put one together at all. And the one thing I want to say about Russell Wilson's a great guy. He's had a great career, and I've always been a fan of him. But when his first handful of games here, he was proving a lot of people wrong, and a lot of people were shutting up with Tom and making that move because we were seeing the ball pushed down the field. We were seeing points put up, right? Russell Wilson's been figured out. You take away Russell Wilson's deep ball, there's really not much there to work with. He doesn't move very well. He takes bad sacks, which he has his whole career. That's nothing new. The intermediate passing is very invisible. It's really a lot of sideline throws or checkdowns. That's not going to move the needle. That's not going to do it. And we saw the fact that Russell Wilson has regressed and taken a step back this much in the last 4 weeks is not only concerning, but he's going to be 37 next year. There's just no way you bring him back, in my opinion. There's not a lot of quarterback options, and that's something fans have to understand. The Steelers neglected, toward the end of Ben's career, they neglected drafting a quarterback. And they neglected drafting a quarterback and letting him sit and learn to eventually take those reins. They've neglected that. And they've gone through quarterback roulette the last 3-4 years. So that's what you have to live in now. Fans have to understand you're not going to find a quarterback this draft. You might not find one next year. So what is the options? What are the options? Not Sam Darnold. It's not Sam Darnold. He's going to get a big contract somewhere. So it's not going to be him. I don't think people really want Kirk Cousins. You might as well bring Russell Wilson back at that point. So that's what I mean. They just, right now, they don't have an answer at the quarterback spot. Do they have talent on their team? Yes. Do they have a roster that you can win some games with and make a playoff with? Yeah, they've done that this year. They did that last year and 4 out of the last 5. But again, it's not getting anywhere. So what is the answer? Is it tearing it down, like I said? Is it a complete coach overhaul? Is it just a complete rebuild? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is at this point because what they're doing over and over again isn't working. But with Russell Wilson, he has played 11 games this regular season. And this is what I want to say. He has played 11 games this regular season. The first, what do we want to say? 4 or 5? Looked like he was reviving some of his past. He was throwing the ball efficiently. He was getting the ball down the field. This team was scoring 25 plus points. And we look at the last 4 games, and you could even say the last 5. I mean, really, that Ravens game that they won. No, not even that. Not even that. Like, these last 4, and then they beat Cleveland at home. But again, that wasn't, Wilson threw a couple touchdowns, but other than that, he didn't really do too much. The game on the road against Cleveland was hideous, and then they barely beat Baltimore. So, really, I want to say outside of maybe the first 4 games since the Bengals game on the road that they put up 40, since then, that's a long time. I think that's about 5-6 games since then. He hasn't done well. He hasn't done well. Like I said, you take away that deep ball and have him try to beat you elsewhere, and it's not efficient. It's not good enough. But what I want to say about Russ is he has played and has started 11 games this season. Played well the first maybe 4 or 5. We're seeing the regression the last handful of games. That's very concerning to me. That's very concerning to me. Not just the regression, but the fact that he's not even playing a whole 17 game stretch. He has started 11 games and he's already regressing the last 5. Imagine if it was a 17-game season. No, I wouldn't take Mason back next year. George, thanks for coming in, man. I wouldn't take Mason back next year. He's not going to solve anything at all. I think you're better off with Fields or Russell Wilson at that point. Coach overhaul, and Tomlin only stays if he relinquishes control of the defense and time. And that's the other thing, Drew. Tomlin's a defensive coach, right? These defenses have just been mildly underwhelming over the years, and they end up being the highest paid defense. Mildly underwhelming. They didn't have many takeaways this season. They disappointed in the sack category, which they're usually at the top at. I think the only positive thing from their defense, I think, is I think they're still up there in terms of points allowed and their points per game. But at the end of the day, to me, it's just not enough with the amount of money you're putting into it. You're not even top 5. You're not even top 5 in most defensive categories. Paranormal, what's up? Thanks for coming in. Good to see you. What's the scenario for the Steelers for our team in the playoffs? If it's not the Ravens, what do we need? The Chargers need to lose today. So if the Chargers lose to the Raiders today, they will go to Houston. If the Chargers win, they will go to Baltimore. We'll get Arch in 26. I mean, hey, I'm for it. Draft's out here too. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I wanted to come on here and just kind of vent a little bit, give some of my opinions, thoughts out there where the Steelers team's at, because it's been about a good month since Daniel and I have kind of done a show and talked to you guys and everything. And I know him and I will get back to it once the season's done, but it's just been mildly disgusting. And like I said, this is the most gross and fed up I've been with this team. And I think really ever, to be honest, since I've been watching this team. I mean, watching this team as a kid, obviously they were always up there and great defense and Big Ben and everything like that. But I'm talking about, so like, obviously, I mean, of course, with, I don't know, depending your age and everything like that, there's even been some, even years with Ben that have been frustrating. I think you look at 2012, 2013, you look at the playoff loss in 2011. You look at the 2014 wild card loss, first round of the Ravens. I'm not going to say 2015 because they had a lot of people injured. 2016, lose the AFC Championship. 2017, embarrassed by Jacksonville. 2018, they blew it, being 7-2-1. 2020, they blew it. Last year, blown out. 2021, blown out in the first round. Well, it's just, yeah, paranormal. It's tough when they drop 4 straight games to some really solid teams and they can't hang with those guys. Being 10-3, choking away division, looking like one of the better teams in the AFC. And now you just choke away 4 straight games and look like the Walking Dead. They look like a complete corpse. They look like they want the season to be over. I just don't understand what happened. I don't understand what happened in that locker room with that team, with the team morale. Just what the hell, dude? You lose to the Eagles, okay, but then you lose to Baltimore, and then you get embarrassed on Christmas, and then you lose to the Bengals here at home. It's embarrassing. But I mean, I've been a fan since I don't even know what age, since I was a little squirt, I guess. But there's been a handful of disappointing years. We all can look back at the last 10 and point out a lot of disappointing seasons during that time. But to me, this one takes the cake. It takes the cake for me, dude. I thought that when the Steelers were on a roll and coming out of that Washington win on the road, putting up 40 against the Bengals. I know their defense blows, but I thought, you know what? This team's different. This team's a lot more structured and disciplined, and we're seeing some offense we haven't seen in a while. And, you know, this team could maybe really make some noise. And then they just completely choke themselves and piss down their leg and can't hang with some of these other teams. And it's just really disappointing. It's just really disappointing. It's really disappointing, not that it happened again this season, having a late collapse. And are most likely headed toward a first round loss again. But it's just really disappointing being 10-3, choking the division, looking like an actual different team that they've had in quite a while. So um, I'm just so grossed out, dude. Just so grossed out. There's just really nothing positive to take away from them at this state, and I just don't understand how they got here in totality. Not only just of them losing these games and losing the division, but showing zero heart in anything, just looking like a team that has nothing to play for, looking like a team that's already eliminated. It's sad. It's sad. It's frustrating. It's embarrassing. So I don't know. Just kind of coming on here, but those are kind of just my thoughts. What's the answer? What's the answer? I don't think really anybody has the answer right now. Like I said, you can fantasize it and mock draft it and everything like that, but that's what we've been seeing them do the last 2 years. And it's not nothing. And what I mean by the last 2 years, I mean where they've actually have seemed to have a good draft and actually have gone out and been aggressive in free agency. Yeah, George, it's tough, bro. Rock bottom for them. I just don't see how they pull themselves out. I don't. It's not even necessarily just because they're struggling at this point. And you don't want to struggle before you go in the playoffs. It's like, dude, just look at the whole team. How everybody's playing, the body language, the life, the energy. Just not there. I truly just don't know what happened. I really don't. I think that's why it leads to aside from, yes, the late season collapses and the first round exits and the disappointing seasons and the poor coaching structure and different things like that. But I think just you look at the whole landscape of everything of just how do they come back from this? And that's why I think a lot of people just question, like, do they need complete turnaround? Do they need complete turnover? Do they need new voice, new blood in there? That's the thing. And that's what I mean. That's what I came on here for, to vent, to give opinions, to give the thoughts on where the Steelers are at since I haven't been on here for a month. But also just what's the answer? You can give your opinions, give your thoughts, mock draft it out all you want. But I don't think anybody's going to have an answer anytime soon. I really don't. So it sucks. It's frustrating. I know all fans are frustrated. I don't know how you're not. So it is what it is. But yeah, guys, I wanted to come on here. I know I said about 10, 15 minutes. And as we start getting going and seeing what you guys are saying, we're on here about an extra 20, which is completely fine by me. So it was good to come back on here, guys, for a little bit and see some of you guys in the chat. I really didn't expect to really anybody, honestly, just because of how random this is. But I appreciate all you guys who have come in here and engaged a little bit and given your opinions and thoughts on where the Steelers are at. So it's just disgusting. It's just disgusting, and I don't really think anybody has the answers right now. And maybe we'll get some more answers or maybe some more viable ideas come the off season on what needs to happen and what we want to see them do. But it's just old, dude. It's just old. Putting the energy and you have the excitement and everything like that, and just for it to completely deflate like that the last month and head into this and just kind of seeing another season wasted away and another season disappointed and potentially another playoff first round exit. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. So we'll see what happens. We'll see at the end of the day whether they're going to Baltimore or I don't know what time the Chargers play. I think they're on now. Whether they end up going to Baltimore or Houston, it's probably gonna be Baltimore. But just disgusting, sickening, disappointing. I don't know. I don't know when they'll get back to being a team that can be up there and can hang and win some playoff games and get back to that level of consistency that they were at all those years before. I don't. George, I lived through the 80s. At least they didn't give us false hopes for the most part. Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's kind of what I was relaying back to earlier was like, for me, I'm 26 years old. So obviously I didn't watch during the 80s times when those times were rough. And okay, 425. They're not on right now. Thanks, Daredevil. So we'll see by the end of the night where they're going. And I know that they had some good seasons in the 90s, but when I started watching them when I was fairly young as a kid, but when you're kind of born into the aspect of them already being good and already being a solidified organization, that kind of changes things, right? And that's why at this point, watching them go through all these different quarterbacks every year and losing these playoff games and everything, I know, people point out, you didn't see you didn't live during this time, during that time, blah, 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 blah. But it still doesn't take away on where the team was and where they're at now and just how frustrating everything's been. So really growing up or watching, yeah, there he is. There he is. Yeah. Say what you need to say, Aziz. Say what you need to say. Say what you need to say. Maybe one day, once the season's over for the playoffs, we can go live here on my channel and Z can come on. So, and we can go through everybody in the chat. But yeah, guys, I get ready to wrap up here. I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying, George, is like you living through and kind of experiencing what it was like during that decade, during that time, and saw some success in the 90s. But that's the thing is, when's it get back to that point of having to rebuild, right? Because that's what was having to go on for them to get Ben in 04. Had some decent seasons in the 90s and things of that nature. But again, you've gone through some different quarterbacks. You had Cordell Stewart, you had Tommy Maddox, and different guys like that. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. And thankfully, listen. As frustrated as I am, I know that I could be a Browns fan who have zero hope for anything, and who are being back in a position of having to find their quarterback again when they hope that they had it with Watson and everything like that. You could be a Jacksonville fan. I get all that. But when you're a fan of this team that has standards and develops talent and usually has talent on this team and they just continue to do nothing with it, it's just super frustrating and deflating. It really is. Well, Z, you might as well, because the Ravens are going to beat them. But yeah, we're going to get ready to sign off. But pretty much what I wanted to come on, man. I don't even know how many years I've been following this team for and been a fan for, and I think that this season might just take the cake. I really do. I think it might just take the cake in terms of just disgustment. Yeah, so is what it is, guys. We'll see how today ends. We'll see where the Steelers are going. We'll see what happens in the playoffs, and then I know Daniel and I will be back on here once the season's over, and probably just talk about everything for a good hour, and talk with you guys for a good hour, and we'll see what happens. So, just don't know how they can pull themselves out and try to find a way to bounce back in the playoffs. It's just deflating, and I don't know how any Steeler fans aren't, honestly. So just frustrating, but I appreciate all you guys. The Ken Graham year really sucked. That's what I mean. Like, looking at where the Steelers are at, like they're kind of in a way in that quarterback purgatory again. Not that they're having bad seasons, but we all know it's not the easiest thing to find a franchise quarterback, but they've struggled to find a bridge quarterback at least. And when you're going through, I mean, how many quarterbacks have they gone through? They had Duck, they had Mason, they had Mitch, they had Kenny, they've had Russ, and they've had Fields. That's 6 quarterbacks. So I know Duck was there when Ben was still there, but he was hurt, so he still counts. That's all you got to know about Z's football knowledge. But yeah, we'll see what happens, guys. But we'll be back on this channel. Check out Who Are These Guys with Z and I. We post content up there as well, sports, video games, different things like that. Check that out. Daniel and I will 100% be back once the season's over. But I appreciate all you guys being here, and more than I thought tuning in on this random live stream. So thank you guys. You end up keeping me here an extra half hour than I expected. So it was good to be back. Good to talk to you guys. We'll see what happens though. So at the end of the day, go Steelers, but I'm not sure how I can really say that right now. So but we'll see what happens. So appreciate you guys. And Afton, good seeing you. George, Daredevil, Z, thanks for tuning in for the last 30 seconds. Paranormal, Drew, all you guys. If there's anybody else I'm missing, forgive me. But you guys know I appreciate you all, and I appreciate your support and coming in here. So we will see you guys soon.